it is these 2.5 years, the 8th, the 9th, and the 10th year of the Hijrah. And I wanted to begin by talking about the death of the son of the Prophet ﷺ, and that is, of course, Ibrahim. Okay, but in order to talk about Ibrahim, we need to talk about Mariya. And of course, the topic of Mariya is a very sensitive one. Nonetheless, I would rather you hear these things from me than to be exposed by people who do not believe in Allah and His Messenger. And I would rather we discuss them frankly in the confines of an Islamic ethos and environment before other people misinterpret. And I mean, the fact of the matter is that these topics sometimes are glossed over in modern seerah books, right? Most modern authors just gloss over them. They don't really delve too deep into them. Maybe in a pre-internet world it would have made sense, but not anymore. Not anymore at all. There's no point hiding information or pretending it doesn't exist, because you're not going to get anywhere. And I will tell you from my own experiences as being a da'i, a lot of times our young brothers and sisters contact me and they've heard of a verse of the Quran or a hadith or something that they've never been taught in Sunday school, and this causes them doubt about Islam. And this isn't like people lying about the tradition. This is things found in our tradition that are simply glossed over. And when this young man or this young woman hears it for the first time, he's like, I can't believe this. You know, this can't be true. Tell me it's not true. The hadith is in Bukhari, let's say. Tell me it's not true. I'm sorry, man, I can't tell you it's not true. It is true. But the problem comes that we assume there's going to be this sheltered lifestyle, right? Not in accordance with the teachings of our tradition, and so therefore these types of issues come about. So because of this, I felt that it is imperative that I talk about it from within an Islamic framework as much as possible. And in the end, it is not my job or anybody's job to distort what happened. It is my job to convey and teach, and if people like it, they like it. If people do not like it, that is not a rejection of me. It is a rejection of Allah Azza wa Jal and His Messenger. So Mariya, her name was Mariya binti Sham'un, and Mariya was gifted to the Prophet ﷺ by Jurayh ibn Mina. That's the name given in the books of Sirah, Jurayh ibn Mina. And Jurayh was the Muqawqis of Egypt. What is the Muqawqis? The Muqawqis is a title, just like the Caesar, just like the Kisra, it's a title. And it was given to the patriarch of Egypt. Now, the books of Sirah typically say this is the ruler of Egypt, but this is simply incorrect, because Egypt at the time was not independent. Egypt at the time was under Byzantine rule, the Roman Empire. So technically it is not correct. This is not an independent kingdom. Rather, this is a government appointed. This is a person appointed by Rome. He might have been Egyptian, maybe, but he was not a king. He was a patriarch appointed by the Roman Empire. And of course, back then, they appointed religious people, because remember, there was no separation of church and state. Back in those days, that they're appointing religious people. So they're appointing a patriarch, and it looks like this patriarch, if you look at the books of history, is Cyrus of Alexandria, right? Cyrus has been changed to Jurayh. So Cyrus was his actual Latin name, and then the Arabicized version is Jurayh, Cyrus of Alexandria. And because the Muslims conquered Egypt within 20 years, it just turned out that this was the final Byzantine prefect, was the title, prefect over Egypt. And this Cyrus, he was a Melekite Christian, and the Melekites were, there were no Catholics or Protestants at the time. We're talking about 620, 610 CE. This is pre-Catholic and pre-Protestant. And they had Nestorians, they had Melekites, they had Maronites, and others. So the Melekites become Greek Orthodox and Roman Catholic. So this is pre-Roman Catholic, and to this day the Greek Orthodox Church admires this person, Cyrus. The Greek Orthodox is somewhat similar to that tradition, and so they admire this person, Cyrus. So the Prophet ﷺ sent him a letter to Islam, and this letter is probably around the 8th year of the Hijrah. We talked about him sending letters to so many different people. We have no reports from Egypt about him receiving the letter and what his response was. Unlike the Caesar, we know what his response was in Rome. We have absolutely no reports. However, it is not too far-fetched to assume that he recognized the Prophet as being true, and that is why he was so polite to him. We don't know this for a fact, but it is an assumption to be made that neither did he tear the letter up, nor did he reject, nor did he ridicule. Rather, he gifted expensive gifts. He gave a mini fortune, and he wrote back a very polite letter to the Prophet ﷺ. And therefore, it's not too much of a stretch to make an assumption that this man, and he was a patriarch, which means he was an elder in the church, and he actually is a well-known theologian. Cyrus of Alexandria is well-known in the Greek Byzantine church as being an alim, if you like, right, from their perspective. He wrote books, he wrote about Jesus Christ and the nature of Jesus Christ. He has his theories, which is a very important topic for Christians. How do you reconcile the nature of the divine with the nature of the human? The point being, he's not a jahil. He's an alim from their tradition, and he responds with a lot of kindness and dignity. Perhaps he recognizes, but as is typical, he doesn't want to convert. And so what does he do? He sends a mini fortune. He sends 1,000 mithqal of gold, like 1,000 sachels of gold. That's a fortune. And he sends many fine garments. And he sends a donkey that was called duldul. And this is the Prophet took this donkey, and this is the famous duldul that was gifted to him from Egypt. And he sent a servant by the name of Ma'bur. So a servant by the name of Ma'bur. He sent honey, and he sent many other gifts, and amongst those gifts were 2 sister slave girls by the name of MARIYA and Sirin. MARIYA and Sirin. And these 2 girls were, of course, Christians. And some later books, they mention that these girls were gifted to the church by their noblemen fathers. Now, they had a custom, the church, and we know this even from the story of Maryam and Zakaria, right? They had this custom of gifting to the church. And so the patriarch basically now has control over this. And so the patriarch, the Cyrus, he gifts these 2. And it is mentioned that these were daughters of a noble family. But now, of course, they are the slaves of the church, right? Because they're gifted to the church. And so the patriarch gifts these 2 to the Prophet ﷺ. And the books of Sirah that do mention these things, they mention that these 2 obviously young ladies were exceedingly beautiful, and because they were 2 sisters, and you cannot have 2 sisters at one time, so the Prophet ﷺ gifted Sirin to Hassan ibn Thabit.